Hello and welcome to our webinar, How to Boost Your NDIS Participant Numbers. We begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land in which we meet and pay respects to their elders past and present. We extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here today. My name is Kristy and I'm the Regional Director for Australia and New Zealand. Presenting with me today is our Client Manager, Nina Yongen. All our team members at Aspirico have experience in the disability sector, whether it be lived or professional experience. Personally, I've 20 years experience in healthcare, including disability, aged and community care. I've been in leadership positions as well as clinically as a physio. Nina has 6 years of experience within the residential out-of-home care, client and relationship management, case management positions and intake roles in youth and family housing and homelessness. And she's also currently a support coordinator part-time. Our agenda today will focus on what service providers need to do in order to boost their participant numbers. We'll be discussing the key steps and considerations for becoming the provider of choice. We'll explore why it is important to measure outcomes. We will be demonstrating what true person-centered outcomes really mean for people supported to achieve life's potential, and how the use of purposely developed technology plays a fundamental part in this by measuring impact instead of outdated input of days past. As a result of this process, we've found it's possible to demonstrate to prospective participants, their caregivers, support coordinators, and the general community that an organisation is making an impact with its participants through goals and outcomes functionality and reporting. It's a very powerful metric for websites and advertisements. We will then move to a demonstration of how you can put this in practice within your organisation. For those who've attended any of the recent NDIS or DSC NDIS conferences within the last year, it's evident that NDIS businesses are doing it pretty tough. Looking at the 22-23 financial year, 64% of participating providers reported a loss in the first 6 months. The Ability Roundtable modelling suggests more than 76% of benchmarking providers will be operating at a loss by the end of the financial year 23-24. For more than 50% of the group, this would mean 3 consecutive years trading at a loss. With all the financial concerns, it is critical to ensure that businesses survive, and without participants to support, a business will likely fail. So how does one ensure that their organisation attracts participants and becomes known as a provider of choice? Becoming a disability service provider of choice involves several key steps and considerations. Taking the time to understand the diverse needs of participants. This includes considering factors such as cultural backgrounds, communication preferences, and specific support requirements. Implement person-centered planning approaches where the participants' goals, preferences, and aspirations are at the forefront of service delivery. Tailoring support plans to meet the unique needs and desires of each participant. Prioritising outcomes-based service delivery. This involves setting clear goals with participants, regularly monitoring this progress, and adjusting support strategies as needed in order to achieve positive outcomes. Striving for excellence in service delivery by maintaining high standards of quality, professionalism, and accountability. This includes recruiting and training qualified staff, implementing evidence-based practices, and ensuring compliance with relevant regulations and standards. Fostering open and transparent communication with participants, their families, and support networks, keeping all stakeholders informed about service offerings, progress towards goals, and any changes or updates to programs or policies. Empowering participants to make informed decisions and exercise control over their lives. Supporting autonomy, self-determination, and independence through skill building, advocacy, and access to resources and opportunities. Regularly collecting and analysing data on service outcomes, participant satisfaction, and any other relevant metrics. Using this information to demonstrate the value and impact of your services to participants, families, funders, and any other stakeholders. Soliciting feedback from participants and their families on their experiences with your services. Using this feedback to identify areas for improvement and implement changes to enhance the quality and effectiveness of your programs. Embracing diversity, equity, and inclusion principles in all aspects of your organisation's operations. Ensuring that services are accessible, culturally responsive, and inclusive of all individuals from diverse backgrounds and identities. Whilst all the points that I've just mentioned, they're important, but how do you demonstrate them to participants, families, guardians, or support coordinators who are out there looking for service providers? Are you currently in your organisation able to measure the impact of your service and demonstrate outcomes? When we look specifically at participants, why are outcomes important? Positive outcomes can contribute to greater independence for participants with disabilities. These outcomes empower participants to lead more autonomous lives and reduce their dependence on others. Outcomes that promote social inclusion are crucial for participants. This can involve achieving meaningful relationships, participating in community activities, and having access to education and employment and recreational opportunities. Positive outcomes in these areas foster a sense of belonging and help participants integrate into society. When participants achieve desired outcomes, it often boosts their self-esteem and their overall well-being. So accomplishing goals, overcoming challenges, and experiencing success can enhance self-confidence and promote a positive self-image. It also contributes to mental and emotional well-being, leading to an improved overall quality of life. Outcomes provide participants with a sense of empowerment and also the ability to advocate for their rights and needs. When participants achieve their desired outcomes, they become self-advocates and are better equipped to articulate their goals, access resources, and participate in decision-making processes that affect their lives. Outcomes related to health and functioning are vital for participants. They may involve managing health conditions, improving physical and mental abilities, or maximising their functional independence. Positive outcomes in these areas can enhance overall health, reduce complications, and increase overall functionality and mobility. Outcomes for service providers are just as important and also have many benefits. Outcomes help determine the effectiveness of disability programs in achieving their intended goals. By measuring outcomes, program administrators can assess whether the program is actually making a positive impact on the lives of participants. Outcomes provide a basis for accountability in disability programs. They enable program administrators to demonstrate the value and impact of the program to various stakeholders, including funding agencies, policymakers, but most importantly, the participants and their families. By measuring and reporting outcomes, programs can justify their use of resources and show how they are contributing to positive outcomes for participants and become a service provider of choice. Outcomes serve as valuable feedback for program improvement. By measuring and monitoring outcomes, program administrators can identify areas where interventions are effective and replicate these strategies. On the other hand, if outcomes are not as desired, it prompts a review of the program components to identify areas for refinement and enhancement. Regular assessment of outcomes help ensure that disability programs are continually evolving and adapting to meet the needs of the population they serve. Outcomes play a crucial role in resource allocation decisions. When outcomes are measured and documented, policymakers and funding agencies can make informed decisions about allocating resources to disability programs. Programs with a track record of positive outcomes are more likely to receive continued funding and support, while those with limited or potentially unsatisfactory outcomes may undergo re-evaluation or reallocation of resources to more effective programs. And as we've heard in recent conferences, this may be the future for the NDIS funding. By measuring outcomes, disability programs can ensure they are making a positive difference in the lives of those they serve and continually work towards better outcomes. We all know the objectives of the NDIS are to build capacity, provide full inclusion, and measure true person-centred outcomes. With the initial launch of the scheme, service providers were required to have their focus on financial viability through measuring time and task, workforce, and service costs to ensure sustainability and adequate service operation. With the pressure of the government to continue to support a scheme that has provided immense opportunity for choice and control to participants, it is no wonder that there needs to be measures in place to ensure the services that are being provided truly represent person-centred outcomes. Here at Aspirico, we believe in potential-centred planning, focusing on the quality of life and the well-being of participants and their ability to achieve their life's potential. So instead of starting with a risk assessment and needs assessment, limiting what the person can specify in the support plan, a system for people supported needs to start on the assumption that the person has unexplored potential, and we work back from there. We call this potential-centred planning. So an example of potential-centred planning in action would be, firstly, to identify the outcomes that will achieve this potential, then build a plan that will inform the circle of support how to reach these outcomes. The next, identify and mitigate any specific risks involved in the plan. And then finally, ensure that service delivery and record keeping are designed around these principles. So adopting a culture and approach that focuses on people's true aspirations, their potential and life goals is what will drive an organisation to become a more person-centred organisation, which will subsequently set you apart and achieve the status of service provider of choice. Aspirico has been working collaboratively with leading mental health and disability service providers on potential-centred planning. We've explored the specific technological functionalities of how to adopt such thinking, and what we've learned and developed allows us to champion potential-centred planning through starting conversations with what the outcome is that the person aspires to achieve, and subdividing the outcomes into step goals or step actions, where the overarching outcome is long-term or requires a detailed progress plan, and then recording activity towards each outcome. All of this without impacting or changing the support worker's day-to-day role. The record keeping inherently becomes more person-centered, and daily notes become the story of the individual's life, of their journey towards outcomes and achieving their potential. Tracking granular data, such as the primary reasons for having achieved or not achieved an outcome, in turn provides data on what is working, and just as importantly, what isn't working. This is captured on an individual basis and on a service level, with that data informing operational and strategic decisions. So some examples, for instance, could be if the primary reason for not achieving an outcome is that the person changed their mind, or they didn't want to, or a change of approach may be required for that participant. If the primary reason for outcomes not being achieved is through the involvement, if the primary reason for outcomes being achieved is through the involvement of the person's circle of support, then that should be noted for further reference and making sure that the circle of support are included in future outcomes and goals. Or other reasons may be that the staff are just not the right fit. So regardless of the reasons, service providers can take a data-driven approach to ensure best practice when working with people supported. So when all of this impact data is captured, outcomes can be linked to a service provider's KPIs. And these can be ones, for example, like the NDIS practice standards, or the National Safety and Quality Mental Health Standards, or your organisation's own internal values and vision. It can demonstrate for the government, the NDIA, and most importantly, prospective participants and caregivers that the service provider has reached the specified metrics achieved. And this approach extends beyond the person supported and you as a provider. Data collected in this way will provide real, meaningful insight into the wider social impact and highlight the benefits for people supported and the organisation. It will enable your organisation to demonstrate that it is making an impact and therefore can facilitate being a provider of choice for participants and their caregivers looking for a service provider. So thank you, everybody. Our intention for this webinar was to discuss ways in which organisations can boost their participant numbers. By utilising software solutions like iPlanet, it enables service providers to demonstrate to participants, their caregivers and support coordinators that it is possible to measure true person-centred outcomes and therefore validate with key metrics that the service is making an impact with the lives of the participants they support. Demonstrating these key metrics to the right target audience will assist in boosting your NDIS participant numbers. iPlanet has quite a vast reporting system 80+ reports that you can access. And therefore, what I will love for you to do is, if you'd like further information about iPlanet and would like us to demonstrate any more of the other reporting or other parts of our system that can go into incident management and many other areas, please feel free to get in touch. I've provided my details here for you to copy down, and by all means, either call or email me and we can go from there. So this concludes our webinar today. Please take care and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.